You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
My first guest this morning is Paul O'Brien, the manager of U-Train based in Wexford Town. Paul, you have a passion for working within the community. Start by telling us what led you down this particular path.
My own background, Karl, I'm a Dub originally, like a lot of people in Wexford, and grew up on the north side. Went to college in Dublin and then headed over to England then to finish off a degree. When I came back then, went down to Cork. You heard about that place? Yeah? Mm-hmm. You know Cork, yeah? Good stuff. And worked in an environmental consultancy there. And one rainy night in Cork, when I was passing on the way home, I passed a lamppost with a sign that suggested that there was a workshop for overseas development workers. I was so wet and windy in Cork that I decided, sure, look, I'll give it a spin. Headed back round, I went down to juries where people were giving their testimonies about just how exciting working overseas is. So 3 months later, and a few interviews, I was on the plane to Burkina Faso in West Africa, where I worked for 3 years, basically training trainers within villages to utilise their land much better and to organise their forestry so that they can be self-sustainable. Really good, solid experience. And when I came back then, I moved to Wexford. That was in 2000. But I had a decision to make whether to stay or whether to go away again. Two things really changed at that stage. Firstly, I got the opportunity to work in Wexford here with the FAB Community Development Project. They took a risk on employing somebody who'd been away for a few years, and that worked out really well. And at the same time, around that time, there was a weekend organised for return development workers. And I met a young woman, Siobhan, there, who'd been over in Moscow. So it was an ex-African and an ex-Russian basically meeting up.
Bring me forward now to U-Train. Tell us firstly what U-Train do and maybe a bit of background to that as well, please.
Will do, Karl. U-Train is a community training centre. We're a pre-employment training centre. So we concentrate on employment. That's a really important part of what we do. We're one of 38 community training centres around the country. There are 5 in the southeast. We work with 16 to 21 year olds who are not in the formal education system. So we concentrate on young people who haven't a leaving cert, and a lot of them don't have a junior cert. But what we believe is that they have an awful lot of skills, an awful lot of capabilities that can make a real contribution to business in Wexford. And what we do is we work with them to help them to shine a light on their talents and to be able to talk to employers and to convince them that actually of the contribution that they can make. We also do a lot of FETAC qualifications to make sure that they're backed up with skills that are relevant to the workplace.
Do you find it hard for the 16 to 21 year olds to engage with your service?
Not really. I think a lot of the 16 to 21 year olds that we have, they've made decisions not to continue on in the formal school system, but for a number of different reasons. Some of them would have had health issues. For some, the secondary school system just didn't suit them. So some would be very IT literate. It means very difficult to get IT certification in school. If somebody is very sporty, a lot of the schools don't promote that. Some people would have had family difficulties and other baggage that they're trying to work through. We don't find it hard to engage them because they're ready to engage, and that's the really important part. Nobody's sent to U-Train.
I spoke to a guy there recently who was involved in men's sheds now. That's for the older age profile of men. But one of the points that he made was that the 16 to 25 year olds in general across County Wexford, they don't seem to engage as fast as maybe the over 25s do. Why do you think the reason for that is?
I think some of it is because they're not engaged with. It's hard. They are harder to reach sometimes. They are harder to reach, but we have to be very clever and canny about or the environments that we create to actually engage with young people. There's an awful lot done for younger kids, playgrounds and things like that. But the older group, I find a lot of the lads that we'd be working with, they might have dropped out of youth groups and sport when they're 13, 14. And there is that period between then and 25 when they do feel they do feel like they haven't anything to contribute. And I think the cleverer we can be in terms of giving them opportunities to contribute, the more impact it will have in terms of their contribution and their engagement and their interest. So it has to be interesting and stimulating, and that's what U-Train tries to do.
And how does it try to do that? Talk us through the process from the time a learner engages with U-Train. How long do they spend with you, and what do they do during their time with you?
Okay, well, in terms of the referral process, 3/4 of the 40 learners that we work with, they self-refer. And that's really important. So, I mean, we could spend all the money in the world if we were allowed to on advertising. But the best advertising we can do is through the people who are with us already. So that's where it starts. So if we work well and effectively with the learners we have, they're going to be telling their cousins and friends who are in that situation, and they're going to make that leap or make that big step to come in the door. Anyone who comes in the door, the first thing I'd be asking them is to tell me their story. Not a story that anybody else has, but tell me their story and where are they at, and then whose decision is it to go back to training? What do they want to get out of it? And why do they think U-Train is going to help them along that journey? They are quite tough questions. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 meetings with a young person so that they can tease it out. They can start to, so they go away and then they come back again. So it's not, you just don't walk in off the street to U-Train. It does take a period to actually to build up an argument strong enough in a young person's head that they're absolutely committed to starting. Once they're in then, in terms of how we engage people, there is a great sense in U-Train of the voice of a young person. They're an absolute integral part of the business, if you like, that is U-Train. I mean, in a sense, we talk about team meetings, but the team meetings are about staff and learners. Every opportunity we have to give them responsibility or to give them a chance to shine or give them a chance to step up is used both internally and when they are out on work placement or whatever as well. So a lot of it is about communication and about mutual respect. They really are the conditions that create that engagement and hang on to people. In saying that, it's not all very soft support. We're not afraid to challenge either. So we will call it with young people as well. So if they are in trouble or whatever, we make no bones about challenging certain behaviours. So it's a mixture, gentle, a good balance between challenge and support. I think that's what we provide inside in U-Train.
And I suppose one of the objectives of U-Train itself is to prepare people for the workplace.
It is, yeah.
What skills do you give them in that respect?
Okay, well, the 2 programmes we have at the moment, we have FETAC Level 3 employability skills and a FETAC Level 4 employment skills. The difference really is that the Level 3, which would be the equivalent of the junior cert, is foundation level experience, so an awareness of skills that are required of just about any workplace. So on that course, they'll cover subjects such as communications and team skills. They do career planning, IT. We do literacy with everybody because literacy is such a serious problem in Ireland at the moment. Still, there are people who've been through the education system and struggle with that. Everyone will do things like presentation skills. You know, it's all about confidence building. It's all about building the person up from the inside and giving them an opportunity to do that. The Level 4, then we step it up because the Level 4 is really about entry level to the workplace. So at that stage, we're doing subjects such as understanding interculturalism because we live in a very different Ireland to years ago, and challenging some of the prejudices that people have, opening up people's minds. Communications. We'll also do woodwork and art with a view to encouraging people to develop team skills and creativity, to use their initiative, to use design, because within every subject, what we do is we focus on the skill that they will need for the workplace. Now, what we need to do as well is to get them to encourage them to tease those skills out. So they're very well adept at articulating the skills that they're gaining through the different subjects.
Paul, there's an element of this programme which requires the learners to complete work placement, but is it mandatory?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. The work experience is a mandatory element of, I suppose, an awful lot of programmes in Wexford. And there are a lot of learners looking for work experience with employers. I suppose the big I've just finished studying in WIT again, and we, myself and a few other centres had a look at the work experience, and I think there's a lot we can do with that. Work experience is something that employers support, and yet we need to communicate better so that we can understand what employers are looking for, what their expectations are, and also what the goals of a learner are, so that they can to make work experience more effective. So yeah, engagement with employers is going to be so important. I mean, in a sense, Youth Train can only do so much within the classroom. So we can provide the theory, and we can do role plays, and we can talk about the workplace. But we talk about the workplace like it's a generic, like, laboratory. It's not that. In reality, every workplace in Wexford will have a different experience for a young person going out. So who is going to take that learning, that theory, and actually contextualise it? We can only do that with the support of employer, because it's the employer themselves who will transform that learning into something that will absolutely stand to a young person in the future. There are also, I'd just like to suggest that there are other ways that employers can engage. It doesn't have to be only about work experience. I mean, there should be opportunities to visit the workplace, and also then to receive. I know it happens in some places. We've done it ourselves, with Barry from Paganini's and Trina from Jones Business Systems coming in to talk to us about their business and about what skills that they look for in a young person. Any of these initiatives serve to connect young people with the labour market. The youth unemployment rate in Wexford is the third highest in the country. Now, that's shocking, but that is the case. So any opportunities we can create to connect a young person to a network of employers, however briefly and however weakly, is going to stand to them in the future, because it opens up their horizons, and it means that the distance between them and work just reduces. So it gives them more confidence to chase down the jobs and to really contribute to the business in Wexford.
I suppose, to get down to the nuts and bolts, Paul, how effective is the programme?
A couple of years ago, we had fantastic progression because there were a lot of opportunities around. Progression is one of those things that it's almost like the butterfly effect. So we had one group a couple of years ago, and one person got a break, she got an interview. All of a sudden, that raised the confidence within the group, and somebody else then nailed an interview. Somebody else made that extra phone call that got them in. And we had a whole group of 12 that ended up progressing into work straight afterwards. It's much more difficult now. It's much more difficult now because there aren't as many jobs around. But I don't believe, and from talking with the Chambers B2B employers that turn up, I don't believe that there's not any work out there, but there are less jobs. So the progression is more difficult, and yet there are real solid examples that we need to celebrate as well. For example, there was a guy on work experience a couple of weeks ago, and he did a really good 2 weeks work experience. He's obviously found his vocation. I haven't seen a transformation in a young fella like this for a while. He was glowing after the 2 weeks. He was glowing so much that he made a very strong argument to get some part-time work, to a point where last Saturday then, in a very one of the leading cafes downtown, he ended up then the afternoon then being given more responsibility than he could have imagined. Now, a couple of things happened there. He took the responsibility, which is what we're about as well, is about giving people responsibility and giving them an opportunity to step up. But also, he was working with an employer who allowed him that opportunity. Now, we're talking this week now as well about some kind of longer term thing. So he will end up working in that place. There's another girl who just qualified from college there, Jodie. She was 2-3 years ago. She was doing work experience with us. She did it in a school up in Enniscorthy. Went really well for her. She took that opportunity, and she made herself invaluable to the company. And she stepped up when she needed to step up. She put in the extra effort. She then went on to college in Carlow campus, and she's just finished her social care. She's now employed by the Department of Education, which is a lovely turnaround. And somebody that we use as a role model inside, because we do need to, as you're asking about them, we do need to tell those success stories. They're what young people listen to. They know, and every one success story will have a knock-on effect with other people and how they feel about going into work.
One of the reasons that I wanted you to come in and speak to us this morning, I suppose, is to raise the profile of Youth Train in County Wexford, so that if an employer is contacted either by yourselves or by one of your own learners looking for work placement, that they could relate to the organisation and maybe relate to yourself and see some of the great work that you're doing. You have a real passion for this. How is it rewarding you?
I suppose every time a young person steps up and is met with an employer that can see the talent that's been hidden, and employers are great in Wexford. I don't think we give them enough credit sometimes. I think there is a feeling that employers are all too busy, but a lot of employers are very interested in nurturing what is young talent in Wexford. So what gets me motivated are those small stories. They're the ones that get me up out of bed in the morning.
What more could employers be doing for Youth Train?
I think employers in general, I think that they're doing a lot. I think there are ways that we can engage, not only Youth Train, but there are ways that centres like Youth Train can engage with employers that wouldn't be all about work placement. I think we need to find some way of sharing the skills, because business in Wexford, like anywhere else, is changing. The skills set is changing. They want people who have initiative. They want people who can work well as a team. They're not necessarily skills you're going to pick up in school. Now, if we know about them and they're reinforced with the learners we have, we can develop hundreds of young people who are absolutely raring to go for work and are ready to get stuck in, really, and make a difference to Wexford business and grow Wexford business. So I would say that probably the best way to do it is that they would stay in contact. I mean, we will be writing out to employers fairly soon, particularly up around Whitemill where we are now, because we moved up here in January into an exciting new premises up in Whitemill. So the first thing we'll be doing is to invite the neighbours in so that we can understand exactly where they're coming from and let them know what we're doing as well. That'll be a big thing. Tell
me what brought about that move to Whitemill.
Well, we've been down, and Youth Train was set up in 2000 as a response to the difficulties that people with poor leaving certs had in getting work. So it was set up. It was originally down in the youth service down in the FDYS, and then it moved to the Bullring, and we were down there for 8 or 9 years. The idea really of being there on the main street in the heart of Wexford was that we would be close to employment. And that was fine, but 36 young people within that the confines of that building, it was really just too small. We also had a workshop up in Vitas, in the Vitas complex, so there was a lot of coming and going between the two centres. So in 2009, the Board of Management, which guides the work of Youth Train, made the brave decision to start looking for new premises, and a premises that would be appropriate to young people's training, but also a premises that would be a statement about how much young people are worth. And we were very lucky to find in Aidan Kelly, the owner of a premises who could see that as well, and who had the vision to actually work with us and to create an environment now where the learning itself has been transformed. The lads learn better. They've a bit of space. We've space to think big and space to think. Space to create new ideas and to go chase down those ideas as well. So it's made a massive difference for us, and we feel like we're in the heart of an employment centre as well, because the lads see a lot of people coming and going and work that they feel they could be doing. I mean, recently 20 people went out on work experience. 7 of the young lads got work experience in the industrial estate, so that's already huge. Out of the last batch, then 6 now have some part-time work out of it.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.